Tucker Carlson is no longer just a guy talking into a camera from a garage-style setup. By 2025, he has transformed into something far larger, far wealthier, and far more influential than most people expected. The version of Tucker Carlson that dominated cable news only a few years ago barely resembles the man living today. His life has shifted away from network studios and rigid schedules into a carefully constructed world of private power, family loyalty, and independent media. To understand where he is now, you have to look beyond the headlines and into the details of his family, his homes, his money, and the lifestyle he has intentionally built. For years, Tucker worked hard to keep his children out of the spotlight. He has often said that fame is a burden rather than a blessing, and that children should be protected from it for as long as possible. That approach held for a long time. But in 2025, his only son stepped directly into the center of American politics. Buckley Carlson is no longer working behind the scenes. As of January 2025, he became the Deputy Press Secretary for Vice President J.D. Vance, position that places him inside the White House communications machine. That role means Buckley helps shape official statements and messaging coming from the Vice President's office, making him one of the young voices influencing how the administration communicates with the country. This job did not come out of nowhere. Buckley had been building his political resume for years before landing in the White House. He began his career on Capitol Hill in 2019, working for Representative Jim Banks. Like most young staffers, he started at the bottom, answering phones and handling basic tasks as a staff and press assistant. Over time, he moved up quickly, and by 2021, he had become Banks' communications director, the person responsible for managing media strategy and public messaging. That climb was not without controversy. In 2022, Representative Tom Emmer reportedly made a comment implying Buckley benefited from nepotism. The remarks sparked anger from Tucker, who privately defended his son's work ethic. Buckley kept working through the noise, helped guide Banks through a Senate run, and ultimately proved he could handle the pressure. By 2025, Buckley Carlson is 28 years old and working daily out of the Eisenhower Executive Office. Building with a government email address and a taxpayer-funded salary, his personal life has advanced alongside his career. In May 2023, he married Kelsey Kilgore, a political consultant herself, forming a young Washington power couple. The situation is ironic in many ways, given Tucker's outspoken hatred of what he calls the Washington swamp. Yet his son is now firmly embedded within it, while Buckley has stepped into public life. Tucker's 3 daughters have gone in the opposite direction. Lily, Hopi, and Dorothy Carlson remain intensely private, largely invisible on social media and absent from celebrity culture. This privacy is intentional. Tucker and his wife have worked to shield their daughters from the chaos that comes with political fame. Lily, the oldest, graduated from the University of Virginia, continuing the family's emphasis on elite education. Hopi also attended the University of Virginia and developed a strong connection to the outdoors. She worked as a camp counselor at Fernwood Cove in Maine, where she ran a natural horsemanship program, teaching children how to care for and ride horses. The youngest, Dorothy, attended St. George's School, the same school where Tucker and his wife first met decades earlier. By 2025, she is in her early 20s, likely finishing college or beginning her career. Still far from public attention, at the center of the family is Tucker's wife, Susan Andrews, who has been with him for more than 3 decades. In an industry known for short-lived marriages, their relationship stands out. They met as teenagers at St. George's School, where Susan's father was the headmaster, and married in 1991 in the school chapel. Susan has stood by Tucker through every rise and fall. From his early days at CNN and MSNBC to his dominance at Fox News and his abrupt firing, she prefers life away from the cameras, managing family logistics and maintaining stability while Tucker handles the public battles. There has long been speculation about inherited a wealth connected to the Swanson frozen food fortune. While Tucker's family does have generational wealth through marriage ties, the Swanson company was sold long ago, and there is no endless stream of frozen diner money funding their lifestyle. Most of what the family spends today comes from Tucker's own earnings. Susan plays a critical behind-the-scenes role in his independent media ventures, including the launch of the Tucker Carlson Network, helping protect their privacy and maintain order as his influence grows. In 2025, Tucker splits his time between 2 very different homes. One is in Boca Grande, Florida, an exclusive and wealthy beach town on Gasparilla Island known for its privacy and old money culture. Tucker bought his first house there in 2024 to $0.9 million. A modest but elegant home by local standards. In 2022, he purchased the neighboring property for $5.5 million, effectively creating a private compound. Together, the properties are now estimated to be worth well over $10 million. Barba Grande serves as a winter retreat and a secondary production base where Tucker films content while enjoying fishing in seclusion, Maine. However, remains the emotional and operational core of his life. His home near Bryant Pond in Oxford County is rustic, isolated, and deeply personal. The property includes an old farmhouse-style residence and a private studio built on his own land after a failed attempt to purchase a local garage, sparked controversy with a regional newspaper. From this studio, he films long-form interviews for his show on X, presenting himself against a simple wood backdrop that reinforces his rugged anti-establishment image. Stories about his main home, including his claim of a demonic attack while have only added to his mystique among supporters. Despite being one of the most recognizable figures in America, Tucker's daily life in Maine is surprisingly austere. He spends mornings reading, writing, chopping wood, and using a sauna he heats himself. He films interviews without the pressure of network deadlines and prefers long, unedited conversations with guests ranging from Elon Musk to Alex Jones. His vehicles reflect the blend of old and new that defines his life. A workhorse Ford F350 alongside a Tesla Cybertruck, which he famously tested and even shot to demonstrate its durability. Financially, Tucker Carlson is stronger than ever. His estimated net worth in 2025 ranges from $30 million to $50 million, built largely from years of earning around $20 million annually at Fox News. After leaving cable television, he replaced that income with subscriptions to his own network, advertising partnerships, revenue sharing from X, and a substantial investment portfolio. With hundreds of thousands of paying subscribers, his independent operation generates millions annually without corporate oversight. By 2025, Tucker Carlson has achieved something rare in modern media. He lost the most powerful job in cable news and emerged with more freedom, more money, and more influence. His son works in the White House, his wife anchors the family, and his media empire operates on his terms. Whether admired or despised, Tucker has built a self-contained world where he answers to no network, no executives, and no advertisers. He lives between a fortress in the Maine woods and a private compound in Florida, shaping his message exactly as he wants, and he shows no signs of stepping away by this point in his life. Tucker's relationship with mainstream media is effectively over. He no longer does the traditional press circuit, rarely grants interviews to legacy outlets, and has openly said he does not trust most journalists. Instead of chasing validation from newspapers or television panels, he speaks directly to an audience that already agrees with him or is at least willing to hear him out. That direct-to-consumer model has changed how he operates. There is no editorial board to argue with, no corporate standards department, and no fixed airtime. If he wants to release a 2-hour interview at midnight, he does. If he wants to disappear for days to read and think, he can. That autonomy is the real luxury he bought with his success. Far more than houses or vehicles, the Tucker Carlson network has become the backbone of that independence. Rather than relying on one platform, he distributes content across multiple channels, using X as a megaphone and his own website as the gated community where paying subscribers get full access. This structure protects him from being deplatformed overnight and ensures that even if one outlet turns against him, his core operation survives. The tone of his work has also shifted. While he still delivers monologues, much of his focus is now on long-form interviews that feel more like conversations than confrontations. He often lets guests speak uninterrupted for long stretches, something that would have been impossible on cable television. This slower pace reflects a broader change in his priorities. Tucker no longer lives by rating cycles or breaking news alerts. He has said repeatedly that constant outrage is unhealthy and that most news is designed to manipulate emotions rather than inform. In 2025, his content leans more philosophical, sometimes drifting into history, religion, and culture rather than day-to-day politics. That shift has not cost him his audience. If anything, it has deepened the loyalty of his supporters, who see him as someone thinking out loud rather than performing for clicks. His critics, however, see the same transformation very differently. To them, Tucker has become more dangerous precisely because he is no longer constrained. Without advertisers to appease or executives to answer to, they argue he can amplify controversial voices without accountability. His interviews with figures like Russell Brand and Alex Jones drew intense backlash, especially when clips circulated outside their original context. Tucker's response has been blunt. He believes sunlight is better than censorship and that adults should be trusted to hear ideas, okay, and make up their own minds. This philosophy extends to how he raises his family. Despite his fame, he insists on normalcy at home, family dinners, long conversations, and shared time in nature are non-negotiable. Friends of the family describe the Carlsons as surprisingly traditional. There are no reality show cameras, no influencer deals, and no public oversharing. When his daughters visit Maine or Florida, phones often stay off, and life slows down. That insulation is intentional. Tucker believes that constant exposure to public judgment is corrosive, especially for young people. His bond with Buckley has also evolved. While Tucker remains fiercely protective, he has largely stepped back. From guiding his son's career, Buckley's position in the vice president's office comes with scrutiny. And Tucker understands that intervening publicly would only undermine him. Instead, their relationship is said to be rooted in private conversations about power, loyalty, and the cost of public service. Tucker has hinted that watching his son enter politics has softened some of his views, forcing him to confront the difference between criticizing a system from the outside and navigating it from within. Financially, Tucker's long-term strategy appears conservative despite his anti-establishment rhetoric. He avoids flashy purchases, rarely travels internationally, and invests primarily in stable assets. Those close to him say he distrusts debt and prefers to own things outright, from his homes to his production equipment. That mindset was shaped by watching other media figures rise fast and collapse just as quickly. By keeping overhead low and revenue diversified, he has insulated himself from sudden downturns or platform bans. Even his physical routines reflect a desire for control. The daily sauna, the wood chopping, the long walks through the forest are not hobbies as much as rituals. He has spoken about the importance of physical discomfort as a way to stay grounded, arguing that modern life makes people soft and anxious. In Maine, where winters are harsh and isolation is real, he feels closer to something honest. That environment feeds his worldview and reinforces the image he presents to his audience. A man removed from urban decadence, thinking clearly while others argue in circles. The local response to his presence remains mixed. In a town as small as Bryant Pond, anyone famous changes the dynamic. Some residents appreciate the economic boost and the fact that he largely keeps to himself. Others resent the attention and the occasional security concerns that come with a polarizing figure. Tucker seems aware of the tension but unmoved by it. He has chosen this place deliberately, valuing solitude over approval. Looking ahead, there is constant speculation about his next move. Some believe he will eventually run for office despite his repeated denials. Others think he will build a larger media ecosystem, bringing in other voices under his brand. For now, he shows no urgency to expand. He appears content refining what he already has, strengthening his audience rather than broadening it, in many ways. Tucker Carlson in 2025 represents a new archetype in American media. He is not a politician, yet his influence rivals many elected officials. No, he is not a traditional journalist, yet millions treat him as a primary source of information. He operates outside institutions while still shaping conversations inside them, including indirectly through his son's role in government. Whether history views him as a truth-teller, or a provocateur, or something in between, will depend on who is writing the history. What is undeniable is that he has escaped the usual trajectory of rise, fall, and obscurity. Instead of fading after losing his television platform, he rebuilt his career on his own terms. In doing so, he created a life that is insulated from cancellation, financially secure, and deeply aligned with his personal values, by the standards of the world he criticizes. Tucker Carlson should not exist in this form. He should have been replaced, marginalized, or forgotten. Instead, he adapted, hardened his independence, and emerged with more control than ever. In 2025, he is not chasing relevance. He owns it, protects it, and uses it exactly how he wants. From a quiet town in Maine, far from the studios that once defined him, that sense of control is the thread that ties everything together. Tucker's break from legacy television was not just a career pivot, it was a psychological one. For decades, his life revolved around approval metrics he did not control. Ratings, advertisers, executives, publicists. Once that structure vanished, he rebuilt his routine around things he could measure: personal clarity of thought, loyalty of audience, stability of family, and the freedom to say no. In 2025, his schedule reflects that shift. There are no emergency calls from producers, no last-minute script rewrites, and no countdown clocks. He decides when the conversation starts and when it ends. That autonomy has allowed him to explore subjects he would never have touched on cable news. He talks openly about religion, spirituality, and meaning, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes provocatively. He admits uncertainty more than he used to, which is something his longtime viewers notice. On television, certainty was a performance requirement. Online ambiguity is allowed. He has said that the most interesting questions are the ones that do not have clean answers, and his newer interviews often wander into uncomfortable territory. Without being steered back to a tidy conclusion, this evolution has also changed how his audience relates to him. Instead of seeing him as a knightly authority figure, many now see him as a companion thinker, someone wrestling with the same doubts and suspicions they have about modern life. That parasocial bond is powerful. Subscribers do not just feel entertained, they feel included. They are paying not simply for content, but for access to a worldview that feels insulated from corporate influence. That loyalty is why his subscription model works. People are not buying episodes, they're buying alignment at the same time. Tucker has become far more selective about who he allows into his inner circle. Former colleagues from television describe a man who is polite but distant. No longer interested in industry gossip or professional networking, he does not attend media parties or conferences. Invitations go unanswered. The few people who regularly spend time with him tend to be family, longtime friends, or collaborators who share his skepticism of institutions. Trust once broken is not easily repaired in his world. That guardedness extends to security. He dislikes obvious protection. The reality of his fame has forced compromises. His main property is discreetly monitored, and his Florida compound is designed to minimize public access. He does not talk about threats publicly, but those close to him acknowledge that caution is now a permanent part of life. The irony is not lost on him. A man who preaches independence must still take precautions because of how visible his independence has made him. Despite that, he remains unusually accessible in small, controlled ways. Locals in Maine still see him at hardware stores, libraries, and diners. He does not travel with an entourage. He chats about weather, fishing, or property repairs like anyone else. Those mundane interactions matter to him. They ground him in a reality far removed from online outrage and political theater. He has said that if he ever stops enjoying those moments, it will be a sign that something has gone wrong. His relationship with technology is similarly conflicted. He relies on digital platforms to reach millions, yet openly distrusts the culture they create. He uses X aggressively but warns about its psychological effects. He owns advanced technology like the Cybertruck, yet romanticizes manual labor and analog life. That contradiction is not accidental. It mirrors the tension he sees in modern society: progress without wisdom, speed without direction. By embodying both sides, he keeps himself from fully committing to either as his influence grows. So does speculation about his political future. He insists he has no interest in running for office, arguing that the incentives of politics reward dishonesty and conformity. Still, the idea persists because his audience overlaps heavily with voters, and his messaging often frames issues in moral rather than partisan terms. If he ever did run, it would likely be framed as reluctant service rather than ambition. For now, though, he seems content shaping narratives rather than legislation. Watching from a distance, one can see how much of his current life is built around insulation. Financial insulation through diversified income, emotional insulation through family and routine, geographic insulation through remote living, platform insulation through ownership rather than dependence. Each layer reduces vulnerability. Each layer increases leverage. That architecture did not happen by accident. It is the result of years of observing how power is gained and lost in media and politics. There is also a quieter motivation at work: legacy. Tucker rarely speaks about legacy directly, but his actions suggest he is thinking about it constantly. He wants his children to remember him as present, not famous. He wants his work to outlast specific news cycles. He wants to build something that cannot be erased by a firing or a scandal. That desire explains why he invests so much energy into writing, archiving, and long-form conversation. He is creating a body of work rather than a highlight reel. Even his critics acknowledge that he has changed the rules. The old assumption was that gatekeepers controlled relevance. Tucker's career now stands as proof that relevance can be owned, not rented. That realization has frightened institutions more than any single monologue ever did. If one high-profile figure can walk away and thrive, others might follow. The danger from an institutional perspective is not Tucker himself, but the model he represents. In private moments, those close to him say he is calmer than he was at the height of his television fame. The anger that once fueled his nightly performances has cooled into something more controlled. He still believes the same things, but he no longer feels rushed to shout them. Time, not airtime, is his most valuable resource now. He protects it. Fiercely by late 2025, Tucker Carlson exists in a strange, in-between space. He is deeply embedded in American political life through influence and family, yet physically removed from its centers of power. He is wealthier than ever, yet lives simply by choice. He is louder than ever online, yet quieter in person. These contradictions are not signs of confusion. They are evidence of a man who has reorganized his life around what he values most. In the end, the story of Tucker Carlson in 2025 is not just about money, media, or controversy. It is about control reclaimed. He lost a platform and gained a kingdom of his own making. Whether that kingdom is viewed as a refuge, a threat, or a curiosity depends entirely on who is looking. But from inside it, Tucker appears settled, fortified, and unconcerned with outside approval. He is no longer trying to win the system. He has stepped outside it and built something that answers only to him.